Welcome to my new video. If you're the first time here, my name is Luc de Ceuster and this is the Ceuster Academy YouTube channel. You will find a lot of very interesting videos related to project management and other topics. And in this video, I will explain you some differences that exist between the interpretations of ASAP, or as soon as possible, and immediately. When you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and get more information about our videos. When we look at projects, but not only at projects, also in business and in life in general, communication is very important. A lot of misunderstandings can happen because people have a different understanding of certain words, terminology, certain abbreviations, and so on. There are a lot of examples that we can refer to. I'm not going to talk about the theoretical part of communications, how communication works. I'm not going to talk about the sender-receiver model. Although what is very important about the sender-receiver model is that in communications, the sender is always responsible for the message that is sent out to the receiver. And in order to have an efficient communication, it is crucial that the sender verifies with the receiver that the message has been understood correctly. Certainly in items like different words which may have different meanings in different environments, the discussion that I've seen and heard and read on Facebook, which I've seen in companies, it's a discussion that can lead to very important misunderstandings. I've seen people reacting to ASAP and immediately and bringing out some definitions. What are the differences? And what I want to do here is to share my personal experience related to ASAP and immediately. What I've seen in some cases is that people tend to use immediately or avoid it better because they get the impression that it's too pushy on the people and it's a kind of impolite thing to say. It's like ordering, do this now. It feels very annoying, and my impression is that many people are using ASAP as a synonym of immediately. Basically, they're just saying immediately by using ASAP, and that can lead to misinterpretations because there is a clear difference between ASAP and immediately. When we talk about communications, it is very important to avoid all possible ambiguity. The ambiguity that can exist when you're using words that are not really interpreted in the same way, this can create problems. We have to use clear words, clear defined terms and terminologies to communicate clearly. One of the elements you can do in your company or in your personal life and whatever you do is to create a kind of dictionary. A dictionary explaining what different abbreviations, words and expressions mean. So you can say ASAP means this in our organization. If you want to say ASAP is equal to immediately, and that's your definition and everybody understands it, no problem, but you have to be clear about it. And when you don't understand, of course, you have to ask, what does it mean? What do you mean with this? If it's not clear, you as a receiver of the message should ask for clarification. The first example I want to share with you is an example that happened already some years ago where my manager asked me to do something ASAP. Okay, no problem, Peter, I will do that. I took it with me, and for my interpretation of ASAP, it means it's a priority task, but there are other activities that already were planned before, and I'm not changing that priority. I'm adding the new important activity in row together with all the other important activities, but I don't change the importance. I don't change the order. Now what happened 1 week later, I see my boss and he asked me, well, look, how is it, that new task, how are you doing? And I said, well, Peter, I didn't start with it yet. And I could see on his face that he was not really happy about it. So I asked him for clarification. I said, Peter, I got the impression that when you told me to do this thing ASAP, it was ASAP, it means important job, but I don't change the priorities of my other jobs. My other activities are still going on. And when I come to this new activity, I will treat it, of course, as a priority job. But I got the impression that you didn't really mean ASAP. You wanted to be polite and you were afraid to shock me. Imagine after 13 years of military career to be shocked. And I think you mean immediately. I said, yes, of course, I meant immediately, I'm sorry. I said, no problem, we just have to know. The only thing is, what happens with all the other activities that I'm working on? Can I change their delivery time, their priority? And he said, no, everything has to be finished on time. I said, Peter, I'm sorry, it's not possible. Because when you give me a task or an activity to do immediately, it has an impact on my other job. There are only 24 hours in a day. Okay, I can still work at night, but it's limited. I cannot add more activities than I have the capability and the capacity. So after that, he said to me, well, okay, look, just do it ASAP. I didn't want to be the rebel there, but I just got my understanding of ASAP was differently from what my boss thought. We clarified it, and from now on we knew what to talk about. We made a kind of entry into our personal dictionary saying ASAP means this and immediately means something else. Where did I get my understanding of ASAP and immediately? Well, basically, I already told you that I was in the military for about 13 years, left as a captain, and remained in the reserve till a few years ago. We had clear understandings what ASAP and immediately means. When you have an army unit that's at rest or in reserve, that unit has been put on or is put on a certain operational level. Those operational levels define how long it takes before the unit will reach 100% of the operationability. It means after so many hours the unit can go into battle with 100% of their capabilities. Now, when you say, for example, you are in an operational status of 4 hours, it means that you can do certain repairs, you can do certain work, and when the order to move comes in, you have 4 hours to get ready. And then you leave with 100% of your capabilities. On the other hand, you can get the order to move immediately. In that case, you will just take whatever is working and go to the activity or the battle you have to go to. But it also means that you may have less than 100% capabilities. This is something that the boss, your leader, your commanding officer should have in mind, because when you receive the order to move out immediately, it also means you leave immediately. It may mean that you have to leave half of your unit behind. Now, this is something which is really important to understand, because when you give an order to move ASAP, you go out with your full capacity, but when you get the order immediately, it means you will be available at reduced capacity. And that's the responsibility of the boss. So when my boss told me to do that activity immediately, basically he should count in that this task will have an effect on my other activities, and it's his responsibility to deal with that, to take eventually the blame with it, but it can be necessary to act immediately. So that's where my understanding of ASAP and immediately come from. Now, in companies, it depends on what is defined. Typically, people say ASAP means this is an important job. Although when you say immediately, there is more urgency to it. And let me come back to a few other examples that will show you what I mean with the difference between ASAP and immediately. A few years ago, I had some work that a friend of mine asked me to do. And I always ask, when does the work have to be completed? And the friend said, ASAP. I said, okay, what does it mean, ASAP? When I look at my calendar, at my work, ASAP means it can be done in 1 week. And the friend said, no, that's too late. I said, tell me, when do you want to have it? And she kept on repeating, ASAP, ASAP, ASAP. I say, ASAP doesn't tell me anything. Tell me a date. We had a discussion for over half an hour because whatever time I gave, it was too late. I say, in 3 days, too late. I want to have it ASAP. It was clearly that that person didn't understand the concept of planning, and certainly not the difference between ASAP and immediately. Finally, the person said, okay, in 2 days. But she didn't like it, basically, because she wanted to have it ASAP, which meant for her yesterday or even the day before yesterday. Now, that's in fact a little bit abusive, and when you are working with people, you have to clearly define what you want. When somebody asks me to do something, my first question is, when do you need it? Another question is, when it's very urgent and I only have a few days, I asked my boss a few times, how much time did you have it on your desk? Oh, 3 weeks. I say, you let it lay there for 3 weeks and now I have to finish the work in 2 days? It's not really honest. Of course, I understand not everybody would be in the same position like me. But these are the things that are very important. Now, to come back to my friend that did the work for some other friend, finally, the work was completed. The person worked on it at night because she didn't have time during the day. The work was handed over, and just imagine or think about the following question. When do you think that the work was used by the person who requested it? Because it was very urgent. So I would think that she would use it in a few days. Well, that person never used the work. She didn't pay for it. It was a favor between friends. But these are things you don't really do. Of course, in business things can change, and it's possible that priorities change and the work has been done and you don't need it anymore. But it's very important to see what's going to happen. And what is the discussion about ASAP and immediately in those cases? If your boss does it a few times, you stop taking him or her seriously. Another example about ASAP and immediately is, for example, when we have an emergency situation in an airplane. I hope you never had it, but in my life I had 2 emergency landings. Both of them worked out well, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But in the case that we have a classical emergency landing, some system that didn't work, and there is no imminent danger to the passengers, the people would leave the airplane ASAP. It means you get up, you take your hand luggage, you prepare your things, and you leave the airplane. Now, when you have a landing, emergency landing, where you have a real danger for the people, for example, there is imminent danger for fire or explosion, then you leave immediately. It means you just leave the plane with the things you have. You don't start taking your hand luggage, you just get out of the plane as quickly as possible. So those are also two differences between immediately and ASAP. But of course, I also want to get an example from business, typically in operations management. In operations, you may be working on your production system or your assembly line. Now, when you're working on those, for example, you need 4 hours to adjust the assembly line, the production system. It means you will start up your production after those 4 hours. So you're starting the production ASAP. You're looking into it that the entire system is working properly. All the machines are set properly. You verified all the quality parameters. You assure that the quality levels are reached and that you have an acceptable amount of losses due to bad quality or scrap. Basically, your operation should be running smoothly. It could happen that people are working on your production line and due to some problem, you need that production line immediately. It means the people will do everything to make the production line working, operational, but they may not have had the time to do everything. The quality settings may not be perfect. Now, when you tell this to your people as an operations manager, you should take into account that when you push the people to get the operations working immediately, that you may get higher quality losses. Now, is that a problem? Perhaps not. It means that you have to increase your quality controls to avoid that the bad products go to your customers. On the other hand, it may be very important because even with all the extra losses you have, you still get a good advantage over your competition and you make money with it. So you have to evaluate all the elements. Like in the army, when somebody says, move ASAP or immediately, well, there may be a little difference. If you need something at that moment, you need it. You don't wait for 4 hours or 8 hours. You need it at that moment. So it's in fact you as a manager, as the boss, who decides but also takes the responsibility. I hope this helped you to understand the differences in interpretations, and the examples I gave you will help you in the future to understand what's the difference between ASAP and immediately. And I hope you can use it in your daily life to talk with your management and to understand what they want. If they say ASAP is immediately, well, that's their decision. It means it's the same thing. If they say it's different, then it's different. But you have to understand what is the exact definition in your organization. I hope you liked it. We have a lot more videos on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to our channel and get more information about topics related to project management and business management. I'm looking forward to seeing you in one of our next video sessions. Thank you, and don't forget to share the message with your friends. Bye-bye.